When you see a whiskey bottle under $20 at a liquor store, what do you honestly think? Wait, that's a steal. And then, hold on, is this going to hurt tomorrow? Both show up, right? Especially when it is sitting next to soda water like it was born for highballs. So the suspicion is obvious. How can whiskey be this cheap? Is it fake? Short answer, it is not cheap just because it tastes bad. There is a very real structure that can make whiskey legally and surprisingly affordable. First, let's clear the fake bottle suspicion. Nobody is secretly slapping a whiskey label on random brown liquor in the back room. Laugh. If it is Scotch whiskey, the rules are pretty strict. At least 3 years in oak, and 40% or higher when it goes into the bottle. So those cheap bottles still have to clear the basic gate. Then where does the price difference come from? It comes down to what kind of whiskey fills the bottle. Why is highball whiskey so cheap? The split starts with malt whiskey and grain whiskey. Malt is the character actor here, made from barley, full of aroma, usually from pot stills. The problem is, it is slower, harder to scale, and not exactly bargain-friendly. Grain whiskey can use grains like wheat or corn and continuous stills to produce much more steadily. It is lighter, but it brings the cost down. So malt often carries the aroma, while grain carries the volume and the price. That is why so many budget highball whiskeys are blended. Fill the bottle with malt only, and sure, the aroma can be stronger, but the price stops being friendly. Blend in grain whiskey, and the flavor becomes lighter, steadier, and cheaper to produce. That matters a lot when the bottle is headed for ice and soda. Some whiskeys feel quiet and neat, then suddenly wake up in a highball glass. It is not always whiskey made badly. It can be whiskey made for mixing. But this idea was not always welcomed. For a long time, some people basically said, real whiskey should be heavy malt from pot stills. The other side said, if more people can drink it, why doesn't that count as whiskey? So yes, it was almost a trial over the word whiskey. It looks like a taste debate, but the real fight was over where the whiskey category begins and ends. Once grain whiskey and blended whiskey were accepted, the whole market got bigger. Producers could repeat a familiar flavor and send many more bottles into shops. Whiskey moved from the back of expensive bars to ordinary shelves. The budget highball bottles in Korea and the bottom shelf bottles in the United States come from that same structure. It is not just that cheap bottles appeared, it is that whiskey found a new way to be sold. 3 budget highball whiskeys, what actually makes them different? Black and white, Grant's Triple Wood, and Bell's are more useful as personalities than rankings. Black and white is the go straight at value bottle. Grant's Triple Wood is the easygoing friend, fine with soda water, also happy with ginger ale. Bell's has that old neighborhood regular feel of a British mass market blend. Prices change by store, but all 3 sit on the same blended whiskey formula. The drinking method does not need to become a ceremony. Take a neat sip first, and if the reaction is, huh, what is this? That does not mean the bottle failed. It may just be on the wrong stage. Fill a tall glass with ice, add the whiskey, then add about 3 to 4 parts soda water. The rough alcohol steps back, and the lighter grain sweetness comes forward. Add lemon or ginger ale, and suddenly it makes sense. Oh, this is why people use it for highballs. So if you grade budget whiskey like premium sipping whiskey, it will keep feeling awkward. These bottles may not be built for quiet, slow nosing in a fancy glass. They may be built to hang out with ice and carbonation. Grain whiskey and blending lower the price and keep the flavor steady. That is why they often sit near soda water, ginger ale, and ice. Before calling it bad, ask the better question. Is this poorly made whiskey? Or whiskey that survived by fitting the highball age?